Hey guys, we're kind of switching it up. Every now and again, we're going to throw in like maybe something from Reddit for us to like comment on, and it's still the same idea with different generations kind of commenting on the same thing. And this one caught my eye a couple years ago, of where the kid was speeding and he hit two people. It was like a mother and a baby, and he killed them. And then he was. I remember the sentence was coming up, and I was waiting. Like I was interested to see what his sentence was going to be, because he wasn't like, it wasn't drunk or on drugs or anything. He was just drag racing in the sports car. So I'm sure it's like a rich kid, and with his new, I think, Mustang or whatnot. So I wanted to get like their opinion on what they thought of the sentence, because as you read down through the comments on YouTube, from the best of my recollection, I think most people really actually agreed with the longer sentence that he got, whereas I didn't. And that's the reason why I kind of brought it to them. I wanted to hear what they had to say about it. So, but let's just get like a real quick encapsulation of what happened.
Teenagers racing in their cars killed a young mother and her baby. The young men are now in prison, but the fallout is far from over. There is a growing movement on social media to free one of the men. Gloria Gomez's true crime series continues tonight with the Bayshore crash, and the entire world is still reacting to it.
May 23rd of 2018 was such a catastrophic day.
And she said something bad had happened.
I collapsed in absolute fear.
She told me that Jesse and Lilia were hit.
Every day since, we wake up to the same reality and the same nightmare that Jessica and Lilia are gone.
On a warm summer day of May of 2018, Jessica Ravenold and her one-year-old daughter Lilia were killed on one of the most iconic and scenic roads in Tampa, Bayshore Boulevard. The mother and child were crossing the street when a Ford Mustang driven by Cameron Herron plowed into them. Jessica died instantly. Baby Lilia died a day later. Prosecutors say Herron, with his older brother Tristan in the passenger seat, were racing another driver, 17-year-old John Barano. Both Cameron Herron and John Barano were arrested and days later faced a Tampa judge.
Cameron Herron on page 25.
Herron's defense attorney fought to get Herron out of jail and behind the wheel again. The judge wasn't having it.
Counsel, I can't imagine what you can say to convince me to allow him to drive.
Sir, do you have anything you'd like to say?
Herron would eventually bond out of jail, and Barano would too. For the next 2 years, both sides would wrestle over evidence and witnesses. But patience would wear thin for Jessica's husband, David Ravenold, who pleaded with the judge to pick up the pace.
I've suffered horrifically every moment. It is nearly impossible to put into words the agony of this legal process.
After delays and a pandemic, the trial was set for December of 2020, but then came this stunner.
Yes, Your Honor. We are going to enter an open plea.
Is Mr. Barano still going to trial, or is he also entering an open plea?
No, Your Honor. We have reached a negotiated plea agreement as it relates to Mr. Barano.
In a move no one saw coming, John Barano would cut a deal with the state. He would plead guilty to vehicular homicide and unlawful racing and get 6 years in prison. His co-defendant would go a completely different route. Cameron Herron would decide to do an open plea and let the judge decide his fate.
All right.
At his sentencing, prosecutors would lay out a pattern of excessive speeding by Herron days before the deadly crash.
We even see at 9:18 a.m. that vehicle traveling, according to the data, approximately 162 miles an hour down I-75.
Correct. Your Honor.
Later, emotions would spill from every corner of the courtroom when Jessica's husband took the stand.
You've shown zero remorse. The truth behind this is that you are privileged.
I just want to hear what the sentence.
I can tell you.
You killed a mother and a daughter.
All right, guys. Sorry, I was trying to get to the sentencing part. I gotten everything else.
Yeah, I just wanted them to get the whole idea of what actually happened, because I wasn't for sure if they was familiar with it. So now they should be pretty much abreast of what actually happened. The kid ended up getting 24 years. The judge basically gave him the maximum that he could give him. So, and I don't know what the actual Florida law is, but I think I want to say you have to do like 85% of that. I want to say
there was some probationary in there, right, or something like that.
Well, and it'll also depend what the parole.
That's the word I wanted.
Well, because parole, you have to do a certain amount, and then like how you're doing in there, like you have a chance to file for parole.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but I think like in those certain states, though, you have to do at least 85% or some sort of percentage of the. So in other words, he's not going to go in there and do like get out in 6 years on good behavior.
Right.
That's not going to happen.
It's going to be longer.
Yeah. So he's definitely double digits. So anyway, like I said, if you read like the YouTube comments, it seemed to me the overall feeling in the comments was they agreed with it, or even maybe more, or this, that, and the other. And I didn't totally agree with that he should get 24 years in prison. I do think the kid's a spoiled rat. But when you're doing something with like law or whatever, it's not about like how you feel about the person or whatever. It's just like you take the facts of the case, and then you should divvy out what the sentence is, and it should be even handed across, no matter who the person is.
Well, I'm gonna say this as somebody who has dealt with this kind of stuff before. Whoever his lawyer was gave him terrible advice, because you take that plea deal, you're putting yourself at the mercy of the judge.
Yes, that's what he did,
and that's exactly what he did.
Yeah.
First of all, second of all, I don't know that 24 years based on circumstances. I would need to see like how remorseful he was and stuff. But again, we're talking about the facts of the case, and the facts of the case is that you were being a stupid kid. But when you end people's lives, especially a mother and a child, on a road because you're going 100 miles per hour plus, coming objectively speaking, this isn't from emotion, like there has to be consequences for that.
Oh yeah, no, I totally agree.
Like, I don't know if 24 years, but he deserved more than 6 too, because he definitely, regardless of your reasoning, like we've all been dumb kids and we've all done stupid things, but you literally ended a family.
Yep.
That husband lost his wife and his child that fast because you were a dumb kid.
Yeah.
You make mistakes, I get it, and that's why I think that depending on the parole and stuff would kind of change my opinion about it, depending on how you do after that. But the initial sentence, I'm sorry, like I believe in FAFO. You fuck around, you find out.
Fair enough. You said remorse. Obviously, this guy's speaking, trying to get him more time anyway. He said he's been unremorseful, and I feel like in every time you see the Cameron kid, he looks completely just deadpan.
His eyes, I will say this, there's something about his eyes.
Remorseful.
Yeah.
And I'll say that, and that's, whatever.
Yeah. That's just
how
what
he
we
holds
see.
himself.
Yeah.
That's okay. Who knows what's going on behind the scenes? My thing is they said it was like a really big, like, kind of road that they decided to go ahead and drag race on, and he had already had several other times where he was speeding.
162 miles an hour
was one of the top ones.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Where were you doing that? And go back there. Why would you do it in the middle of the day at that, on what is a populated area? If you're gonna do it in a less conspicuous area.
So if you're drag racing, why would you do it on a road where it's one of the most scenic roads, like in Tampa? It even says that.
Yeah.
Like in Florida's already a tourist destination. It just doesn't make really sense what's going on there. But like you said, dumb kids make dumb mistakes. Everyone does. That's how it is. As far as 24 years, he's still super young. And the thing is, he made a mistake, sure. That, no doubt about that. But also, does it deserve to be like a third of his life to be put away that long because of one thing?
I mean, he took 2 lives, though.
He took 2. But
so my thing is like we're not coming from emotion, right? We're coming from objectivity.
Right.
You're bringing up. He is young. He made a mistake. I'm not saying he should be given a life sentence. He's not being put on death row. He's not going to prison without parole.
Right.
But when your stupid mistake costs lives, and you've done it before, that's a pattern of behavior.
That's fair.
So he did need a steep consequence. Like, I'm sorry, but
I'm saying he should have definitely got at least 10. I'm thinking 15, almost 20 is almost a lot, but that's how I see it.
I would say if you're gonna make it 10, there's no option for parole for the first 10 years. Like, you really have to do that and do the time. There's no option for good behavior, because you need to understand that, like, you made a mistake. No one's saying that, like, you're this, like, monster. But you have to understand that just saying that you were young and you made a mistake does not negate the fact that you ended lives.
True.
You ruined families.
And since it went all the way through, that's on his record now.
Yeah, exactly.
Completely.
And if
once he gets out, he's a convicted felon. So he'll have
that's
trouble
what I'm
getting
saying. Like,
a
that's
job.
on him forever.
Yeah, he'll have trouble getting a job or what. I don't know what his family does or whatever, what kind of connections they may have. But it's going to follow him for the rest of his life, regardless of whether when he gets out or whatever. And it's like, so. Like, my take on it is that, like, it's kind of like what CJ was saying, is it's like there's still a difference between, like, when you have, like, literally, like, wanting criminals to go out and they actively armed robbery
they
somewhere.
planned it out.
Yeah, this, that, and the other, and then someone gets shot, even though they wasn't planning on shooting them. Things just kind of went south.
But you planned on doing the act itself.
Yeah, and you got these kind of situations. I mean, I listen to a lot of true crime.
I do too.
And I just heard so many cases where people have literally like raped someone, killed someone, this, that, and the other, and they're literally back out in like 7 years, 9 years.
Child molesters,
like,
man.
Child
molesters get out in like 2.
And it's like, you want to tell me that, like, a kid, this is still an accident though. Yes, he's being reckless. Yes, he's being stupid. But we've all been like 20 years old before though. You know what I mean? Is there really any 20-year-old male out there who's going to say that he hasn't, especially if he got like a motorcycle? I mean, if he has a sports car, well, he's not going to do something. I mean, I know I did. Right. So it could be any of us. You know what I mean? And it's just like, should that necessarily? It's going to affect you the rest of your life. I guess the way I was looking at it. But then the other side of it was like what CJ was saying, is like, yeah, but this is going to affect this guy for the rest of his life. He lost his wife and his daughter. You know what I mean? So you have to look at it from the other side as well. I just think that what happens in these kind of cases is everyone automatically wants to identify with the person that's like the loss. So they want to identify with this guy, and they want to think, man, if that was my wife, or what if, but like, okay, but then take it back to when you was 20 years old. Okay, now identify with the other guy for a sec, because there's two, you know what I mean? And it's just like, what if that was your son that was a 20-year-old?
Which is fair, and that's why, like, I think what we were saying is, like, you have to do time. Like, I'm sorry, that's not a valid excuse, being young, being reckless, all of that. Like, we were all dumb and we were all reckless, but we didn't take someone's life. And I think that's something you said that strikes me, and it's actually something I do. I work with, like, protecting kids, and I think number one, we need to have a serious conversation about what happens to people who sexually assault and people who molest, those types of things. There needs to be harsher punishment. 100% agree. It's egregious that people who make a mistake will get more time than people who knowingly, like, hold women down and abuse them or do that to children.
Yes.
Like, straight up. There has to be a higher consequence for that. So 100% agree with that. On this, like, if I'm coming straight from emotion, I identify with the husband. I do. But you have to look at it from the full aspect, because there's so much more to it. So I think, like, the common sense thing would be, like, there has to be a percentage of time that kid has to serve prison no matter what. 24 years, depending on what the parameters and stuff, I don't know if I would agree that that's...
Here's what I was thinking. Is, like, I'm thinking that, like, now I don't know how, I obviously don't know what someone can do legally as far as from a judge's perspective or whatever, but the sentence I think would have been better is something less than 10 years. He has to go to prison, because that's not going to be a pleasurable experience. He's going to hate it all, so he's never going to forget that. And then I think when he gets out, instead of doing like 24 years in prison, where he could probably end up just making a switch, just becoming a hardened criminal by the time he gets out, you do a few years. That's definitely going to be a lesson to you, a few years in prison. But then even when you get out, you're not just, okay, now you're out. Like, I think he should be sentenced to some sort of, like, community service of where he's helping he has to go like 20 hours a week or whatever, something along those lines to help, I don't know, families, someone's that's been hurt by it, even if it's a drunk driver or something, just something where you understand, like you took someone, you need to remember this.
Yeah.
This is what, and now you can help instead of just sitting in prison. You know what I mean? Now I don't know if the judge has that flexibility, so I'm just saying
Well,
that was
Florida
more
has,
my thought.
Well, and Florida has crazy laws. Florida has some of the craziest laws in the country. Like some of their laws are all over the place. Like the things that people can do and get away with on both sides. It's hard telling. So I could see that. I mean, I definitely don't disagree with that. What do you think? You know,
yeah, no, Pops brought up a good idea. You know, he's obviously going to remember it being so young. Like, went to prison for all this time. It's already on your record. That's going to ruin a lot of things for you anyway. So having to, like you said, drunk driver help or...
were you actually having to do more than just be behind bars? And you're actually having to identify with other people?
Forcing you to serve?
And like I don't know what kind of capacity it could be. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm just thinking outside the box. Like, but like actually look people in the eyes that like their families have been affected by doing something like what he did, or a drunk driver, and you have to go maybe, I don't know, like maybe they're incapacitated and you drive them to their doctor appointments or whatever it is, something where it's like you realize you impacted someone, dude.
Well,
like,
and I would also think like, and I would never tell a person this because like people that get behind bars and stuff, they learn how to manipulate.
Yeah.
So I'd want to see your level of remorse towards the family, because regardless of how everyone feels about what the husband, regardless of the sentence, that's the person that you need to organically at some point like show how remorseful you are. The only other thing that I want to say is, because you brought up him being a felon now, devil's advocate, if the police had been doing their job at any other point, any of those times that he got arrested doing those speeds, he would have been a felon no matter what. That's felony level speeding. You go 100 miles over the speed limit, you will get a felony for driving, and you would probably lose your license for the rest of your life anyway. Just saying.
Yeah.
But I think we're all capable of looking at this from an objective standpoint, and I think maybe 24 years isn't necessarily applicable depending on what they would do outside of that. Because I look at it from a standpoint of when I work with families who have drug-related instances, they want to just throw them in jail. But you're not rehabilitating.
No.
You're not teaching them anything.
Helping them anything.
Literally, if you take them to prison, number one, it's just as easy to get it in there. Number two, what are they going to think about the whole time? They're not learning how to like cope with the stuff that made them go there. They're not coming up with ways to cope with their issues. And number two, who are they discussing all of the stuff on a day-to-day basis with? Other people who are involved in that life. So you're just going to talk about jokes.
Yeah.
You're not fixing anything.
That's what I think. Some of that comes down to: are we trying to rehabilitate someone, or are we trying to punish someone? In this case, obviously, the judge is trying to punish this kid. There's no doubt about that. He's not trying to rehabilitate him in any way. So he does need to be punished. You know, you got to. If you kill two people, even though it is an accident, you can't just be like, you get a smack on the hand.
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
Whoopsie. That's not going to happen. I mean, I don't agree with that. Yeah. I'm just saying, though, I think there might be better options than giving some 20-year-old kid 24 years in prison, in which he's probably going to have to mandatorily do 20 of them. Yeah. And that's just an awful long time to be in prison for something that really was an accident. Yeah. Like, you know, and it's a stupid accident, but it still was. And I'd rather see them impact the community somehow
and come up with a better way.
Yeah, I think that was my overall point.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
You got anything else, Tim?
No. I said what I wanted to say.
I think I'm good.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
So
okay, well,
let us know what you guys think for sure. I think.
Yeah, I'd like to be interested in your guys' opinion on it too.
And if you got something else, something kind of cool like that for us to talk about, we'll throw it down there or give us a link, and we'll see kind of how that goes. Maybe we'll do yours next.
So. Yeah. Thanks for listening, guys.